It is Sunday the 28th of November 2021. I'm in the middle of protesting against Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse, clergy sex abuse, cover up and denial of clergy sex abuse, various other Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal here. And I was in the middle of a monologue. I was just sort of at the end of a half-hour clip. I was talking about how I was documenting the December 6, 2012 vigil commemorating the Polytechnique massacre. And this vigil was held outside the Palais de Justice in Old Montreal. And I just came across it. I was in the area and decided to document it in photos and videos. And at a certain point I noticed that Sue Montgomery, the Gazette's justice reporter, also Montreal Unitarian, was there. She was obviously there to document, report on the event for the Gazette. But I saw this as an opportunity to essentially remind Sue Montgomery, or at least inform Sue Montgomery, that the Unitarian Universalist Association 6 months earlier had falsely accused me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for blogging about pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, to say nothing of Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, religious educators, and so on. To be honest, I can't remember if I had previously informed Sue Montgomery about this in the previous 6 months. I'm quite sure I'd informed the Gazette, but I'm not sure if I directly informed Sue Montgomery prior to this. So I'm not sure if I was reminding her or if this was the first time I was bringing it to her attention. But in any case, I decided, well, I've got my camera here. In the past, whenever I'd asked Sue Montgomery to report on justice issues related to Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse and so on, she'd always refused to do so. So I expected her to refuse to do so again, and I wanted a record of that. I also wanted a record of her behavior for various reasons. So I just had the camera hanging off a strap, off to the side, so I wasn't pointing at her or anything. I was basically doing an audio recording, more than anything else. The visuals were nothing to talk about other than establishing that she was standing right next to me when I conveyed this information. So I told her, how the Unitarian Universalist Association had hired Stikeman Elliott, barristers and solicitors, defamation lawyer, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe, to accuse me of blasphemous libel, criminal act that was in the Canadian Criminal Code, essentially an anti-blasphemy law, for allegedly, and I do say allegedly because it was false, allegedly making unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. And then it said this was not only defamatory, but that constituted the criminal act of blasphemous libel. So the whole idea was to intimidate me into taking down blog posts that told the readily verifiable truth about such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by not only Unitarian Universalist ministers, but a certain Unitarian Universalist parishioner, First Parish Norwell parishioner, Richard Buell, who had been charged, tried, and convicted of raping preteen girls, including a female family member. I don't think I'd mentioned that today, but in the news reports, it was clear that one of Richard Buell's victims of rape was a female family member. That's the exact terminology used. And if you sort of calculate the age differences and everything, it became pretty obvious that this was a granddaughter or possibly grandniece of Richard Buell. But I think it's pretty well being established that we're talking about a granddaughter because, according to some reports, not official news reports, but basically information about the case that's available online in various forums. It turns out that according to people who I believe know what they're talking about, Richard Buell had actually previously raped his own daughters. But what happened is the daughters never, brought criminal charges against him. So essentially, then what happened is he raped, at least one of the daughters of his daughters, one of his daughters. He basically raped the granddaughter. And when that happened, and when it became known to the daughter that her father had raped his grandchild, her daughter, at that point, she brought criminal charges against Richard Buell to protect her daughter and to hold him accountable for his past sexual abuse. Basically, he was at least going to be prosecuted for raping his own granddaughter. I don't know exactly how it also became known that he'd raped a neighbor's daughter. That was again in the news reports. He, raped a neighbor's daughter. So not only his own female family member, but a neighbor's daughter. Who knows how many girls he raped? But certainly these two, he was prosecuted for and found guilty, sent to jail. He actually died in jail. He was somewhat elderly when he was prosecuted, and I think he fell ill while in jail and never recovered, so he basically died before being released. So he's no longer with us, as it were. But Sue Montgomery, I told her about this, not in as much detail, but I made it very, very clear to Sue Montgomery that her religious community, as represented by the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney, had falsely accused me of violating Canada's blasphemy law in an effort to conceal pedophilia and rape from the public. And I wanted her to report the story, obviously. But of course she brushed it off in a quite unconcerned manner, like just didn't care kind of thing. It was very obvious that she had no empathy at all for the victims, and certainly no empathy for me. Not that I was looking for empathy, but I was looking for the truth to be told. I didn't see myself as a victim in this because it was so ludicrous. I just totally humiliated the UUA's lawyer and the top-level UUA leadership for falsely accusing me of blasphemous libel. So I didn't feel like victimized by this. It was actually essentially a huge error on the part of the UUA that benefited me in a way that it helped me to further expose things, because not only did I not take down so much as a comma from any of my blog posts, so I didn't modify any of them in any way whatsoever. They were totally intact, and they're still there. But I obviously started blogging about this false accusation of blasphemous libel and talking about it. And ideally I did want it reported in the news media, but unfortunately Sue Montgomery and other Montreal Unitarians who were well connected in the media, Montreal media, they basically ran interference. Certainly Sue Montgomery ran interference, that's very obvious. But there are some other, not only Montreal Unitarians, but I think, Unitarians in other parts of the country that essentially helped to ensure that this never got reported in any mainstream media, at least so far. And certainly Sue Montgomery was part of that. That's obvious. In fact, it's so obvious now. Prior to her falsely accusing me of criminal harassment in late 2017, I had circumstantial evidence that she was telling journalists, there's no abuse, there's no cover-up, Robin Edgar doesn't know what he's talking about, I've looked into it, I've investigated Robin Edgar's claims and there's nothing there. There was circumstantial evidence that Sue Montgomery had done this kind of thing with other journalists, including the Gazette's editor-in-chief, Lucinda Chodan. But I didn't have any like hard evidence of it, or very little anyway. Just sort of, again, it was basically circumstantial evidence. But after Sue Montgomery had me, charged with criminal harassment for blowing the whistle on her involvement in Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse cover-up efforts, she got emboldened and started publicly telling journalists, oh, there's no abuse, there's no cover-up, I've looked into it. Robin Edgar doesn't know what he's talking about, he's making false claims about clergy abuse, etc. And she did it on public record. She told Carol Off, the host of, or one of the hosts of CBC As It Happens in June of 2019, mid-June of 2019. I think the exact date was the 13th or 14th of June 2019. On air, and there's a transcript, essentially she said there has been no such sexual abuse in the Unitarian Church. I've looked into it. So she's, speaking with authority, like, I've looked into this, I'm a journalist or former journalist. She even called herself an investigative journalist. Perhaps not in that interview, but she has in other times described herself as an investigative journalist. So here's this, investigative journalist, this justice reporter, this judicial reporter, speaking with the voice of authority to not just Carol Off, but thousands of As It Happens listeners, saying there's no such sexual abuse in the Unitarian Church. I've looked into it. Now anyone who's stupid enough to believe that is just stupid. Can there be any religious community that has zero sexual abuse or no sexual abuse of children? I think that's extremely unlikely. And yet she tried to pretend that the Unitarian Church is completely free of sexual abuse. It wasn't clear because she said no such sexual abuse. So it kind of depends upon what the meaning of the word such is. But I was talking about pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers. I was talking about other less serious forms of sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, unwanted sexual advances, ministers using their congregations as harems and so on. Certainly I was talking about, amongst other things, pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, and yet Sue Montgomery is saying there's no such sexual abuse in the Unitarian Church on CBC As It Happens. And she said the same thing to Ainsley McClellan, CBC Montreal journalist, on CBC Daybreak at around the same time. Again, mid-June of 2019, after my acquittal. She told Ainsley McClellan, there's no such abuse or no abuse in the Unitarian Church. This was on air on CBC Daybreak, so a whole bunch of Montreal CBC listeners heard that. But prior to that, going back to January of 2018, so about a year and a half earlier, I came out of my first court appearance arising out of my being arrested and charged with criminal harassment of Sue Montgomery. So I had my first court appearance on January the 19th. And I lobbied hard to have CTV News cover this story because they had covered my protests in front of the church in the past, and they'd actually done quite a good job of it. So I was essentially hoping that CTV Montreal would do a really good report on, what was really going on. I sort of forgot that CTV, they would be their judicial reporter covering that story. I sort of forgot about that aspect. And of course, the judicial reporter for CTV, Stéphane Giroux, was essentially a colleague of Sue Montgomery. I mean, all of the judicial reporters court reporters for the English language or even French language Montreal media. They're all basically associates, cronies. They would sort of scratch each other's backs and so on, help each other out. So I come out of the court appearance, and Stéphane Giroux's there with a cameraman. Hello.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but oh yes, him. Yeah. What? Oh, a whole bunch of things. Here, but also in the bigger community. This sign is about the Unitarian Universalist Association, so the big head office in Boston.
Okay.
They hired a Montreal lawyer
Okay.
to accuse me of violating Canada's blasphemy law.
You specifically?
Me specifically,
What's his
because
name?
Robin Edgar. If you Google it, you'll find all kinds of interesting stuff. If you Google the Unitarian Church of Montreal and clergy abuse, you'll find.
You're like a legend?
I'm a legend, yes. A legend in their mind.
This is my first time here. Is this,
Right.
Is this the only location in Montreal?
There's two.
Okay.
There's another one in Lachine,
Okay.
on Sherbrooke Street, in front of what used to be Lachine High School. Lakeshore Unitarian Universalist Congregation. So if you want to try another one. but yeah, I'm not stopping you from coming here, but there's very, very serious issues. And they've actually been ignoring this protest since May 1998.
Full of lies.
It's okay.
Be very polite and listen to him, but it's rough, really.
Lies? Really? You really think I'm lying?
I don't even
No.
know.
But this is no. But here's the thing. This is their attitude. This
Yeah.
illustrates like I'm full of shit. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's all lies.
Is it a new whatever's happening with you, is this like a recent thing?
Well, no, as I said, because I was about to tell you before she cut in.
Don't worry, I'm listening.
No, it's okay.
I'm very much just a curious
Wait,
bystander.
yeah, well, you're doing what the Unitarian Universalists
Are supposed to do.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.